Coming up on Open Door, Robin Robinson of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus on a new program and a new location. And Kai Love announces a new grand opening. Open Door starts right now. Open Door welcomes Robin Robinson. She is the co-director of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus. It is a nonprofit organization that is in support of the arts here in Cleveland, Ohio. Welcome to Open Door, Robin.
Thank you.
All right. So if you could start by giving me some background on Sankofa Fine Arts Plus. What is it and what do you do?
Okay, well, Sankofa has been around since 1999. We are one of the oldest arts organization and the oldest fine arts organization in Cleveland and the surrounding area. Sankofa was established as a African American artist organization and collaborative. We we used to do fine art expos. We did one every year at Tri-C, which a lot of people know Sankofa as. However, our last Fine Arts Expo was in 2011. At that point, Sankofa commissioned a renowned muralist, Kent Twitchell from LA, to do a monumental-sized mural of Ruby Dee on Karamu, on the I think it's the northeast wall of Karamu. It's an outside wall, but it's 40 feet tall, and it's Ruby Dee. During that commission, though, he was to train 10 local African-American artists in his style. Gary Williams and myself were two of those muralists that were trained in his style. And although we did insist that he sealed the mural, he's from LA, he told us, no, we don't have to. And the weather has taken its toll on that particular mural. Lessons learned, though. Gary and I have, for the past 6, almost 7 years, done community engagement murals throughout the city, and we seal everything. So we have learned his style. We've advanced his style so that the people, our community engagement partners, can also paint without any skill level involved. They can paint the murals, and that's what we've been doing. So Sankofa, since 2015, has dedicated itself not only to advancing African American local artists, but also community engagement to encourage communities and neighborhoods to have a voice in their own art on their own walls.
Okay. I'll just call it the festival, but the events that you were organizing at Tri-C, they weren't on a small scale. I remember attending a few of them, and I remember that you had recording artists. I think the brother that played Kyle on Living Single was at one of your events, and I also remember one time you brought Patrice Rushen to Cleveland for that event. Correct? Right. Yes.
No, they were enormous events, and it took Sankofa the entire year to get ready for the next year. So their main focus was that event, and we also did art shows and engagements and things like that for the local artists. But the main function and focus was that art show. So we brought in nationally acclaimed artists, as you know. We brought in theatrical people. We brought in, it was a major art performance. I'm from Philadelphia, and the only thing that I can say was similar on the same level is the October Gallery in Philadelphia, which is also an enormous art event.
Okay. So when you look back, what do you feel was the impact that those events had on Cleveland and specifically African Americans in the Cleveland area?
I think that those art shows and art exhibits were impactful in that it brought awareness of African American art to not only Cleveland, but people were coming in from all over Ohio and Indiana. So it brought the awareness of African American art. A lot of people, I don't know, they may still think of African American art as just, pictures of Black people, where that is not true. African American art is art done by African American artists. So it's still fine art. It's still quality art. It's still museum quality art. It's still, art, but it's done by African American artists, which makes it labeled as African American art.
Yeah, and I want to reinforce that point because you and I and Gary recently attended an exhibition at the Cleveland Museum of Art called Proofs, and it was a collection of contact sheets that were done by some very prominent photographers in America's history, but there was a noticeable exclusion. There weren't any African American photographers, and there were very few images of Black people, but the idea that, because an African American artist created something that makes it Black art is a little bit off base, because the reality is that what we create and what anyone creates is art. If you could you reflect on your perception of that exhibition?
Actually, my perception was very much in line with yours. I was totally discouraged and disappointed that the presence of not only African American images, but African American photographers, which we know very well there were many famous African American photographers during that time period, were not illustrated. They weren't notarized or given any notoriety in that exhibit. The only two people of color that were actually in that exhibit, and they weren't blown up. The pictures were not blown up as big as some of the other pictures, was Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali and Kersey.
Jackie Joyner Kersey, the Olympic champion.
Right. So, that was the only two. And she was not in her actual element. She was as a model in the fashion section.
Right.
So it wasn't honoring her achievement as an athlete. It just said, okay, here's another attractive Black woman.
Right.
Which, undermined everything that she had done.
Right. And I don't think it was even a matter of her being an attractive Black woman. I think it was really more of her being a physical specimen, and it was related to fashion and glamour. And the photographer was Herb Ritz, who was a fashion photographer. Right.
And that's why she was in that section, because she wasn't in glamorous clothing or glamorous poses or anything. I think she was in a swimsuit. But, she was only in that section because of the photographer's professional status.
Yes.
But, as an athlete, as who she is, her accomplishments as a person, they were absolutely void of any discussion in those pictures.
Right. So there were also a few other images, and I'm just talking about this because I've written about it, and I just want people to know so we can have this conversation. When you come into the exhibition, the first thing that you see is this display board that has a number of images taken by one of the photographers, and there were a number of Black images in that depiction. And then when you go into the actual exhibition, you see 12 frames that have the hands of Miles Davis and his trumpet. But then after you pass those two things, you walk through 3 rooms before you literally see another image of a Black person. So it kind of gives you a false impression of what you're going to see when you go into that exhibition.
Right.
And my thoughts about it, the question I had was there intentionality in that, or was it just something that was incidental? What are your thoughts about that?
That's difficult to say, because even if it's incidental in this day and age, I think there should be a purposeful intentionality. The art museum and places like the art museum have a platform to actually do some intentional bringing the forefront of African American culture, art, things that we lack the knowledge of. They have those things in their basement. They could definitely have a show that shows, and I know the Proof is a traveling show, but when you also have things that can balance the Proof show in the rest of the art museum, in another show, in another room alongside the Proof show, they have the ability to do those things. And the fact that they say, oh, well, the Proof show is a traveling show and we have to present it as is. Well, yes, that's true. You also have the ability to offset what that show is saying by saying something else. The Cleveland Art Museum rarely does things for local artists of color. The Cleveland Foundation rarely does things for local artists of color. And now's the time, if ever there was a time, now's the time to actually bring that stuff out, bring it to the forefront. Ask the local artists, because there are enormous, vast amounts of local artists of color in this city that have marvelous work that can be shown and should be shown.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I will say that this conversation is one that will more than likely be escalated to the folks at the museum, and I think this is also a conversation that should probably happen in other cities around this issue. So I appreciate your insight and your comments and your perspective on that, and I would mirror those. One thing that I would offer is that in that the museum is such a massive facility, I think that there is some space in there that local artists can be honored and not continue to be excluded. You're listening to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and I'm having a conversation with Robin Robinson, no relation. She is the co-director of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus, and she has a very exciting project that she's involved in that we're going to talk about when we come back. This is Open Door Cleveland on 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Car Community Radio Station. We'll be right back.
We're not always on the same side of issues, but that's the great thing about being a democracy. But we can all agree on this. The 2020 census is important to everyone. An accurate count determines how many seats our state has in Congress. It also helps inform how billions of dollars in public funding get distributed annually for things that make our daily lives better, like walk-in clinics, preschool and after-school programs, affordable housing, and hundreds of other programs. So we can all agree participating in the 2020 census is important for so many reasons. To find out how you can participate, visit 2020census.gov. Shape your future. Start here.
When you're in my car, we're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
We're back with Robin Robinson, co-director of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus. Before we took the break, we were talking about an exhibition currently running at the Cleveland Museum of Art, and it will be running through November 29th. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, you can see that. I did write a piece on this exhibition. It's called... It's called A Pictorial on the Politics of Exclusion, and it appears in Can Journal Online. It's the website of the Collective Arts Network right here in Cleveland. Again, I encourage you to go take a look at it and form your own opinion. If you go to the Journal Online, and you can go to canjournal.org, you can read it for yourself and, again, form your own opinion. Before we took the break, also we were talking about Sankofa Fine Arts Plus and some of the things that you have done in the past, and I don't want to get away from that conversation. You indicated that a lot of work went into putting on those events, and that you literally had to plan all year to make them happen. And I know the capacity is often an issue when it comes to nonprofit organizations and their missions, and perhaps there isn't enough capacity to continue to do those events, or maybe there's not enough funding to continue to do those events. But what can you say that you're doing now to support the Artist Network in Cleveland?
Well, as I mentioned, for the past 5 to 6 years, Gary Williams and I have pretty much taken over Sankofa, in that we've amended our mission to include community engagement. So it was important for us to bring African American art and the voices of African American artists out of the gallery space or the kitchen table or the different places that artists of color have been forced to kind of do their things on the side, to bring all of that into the public view. So over that time, we have dedicated ourselves beyond our engagement with the artists, because that is our top priority, is to keep the artists informed of different activities and different opportunities that present themselves to African American artists. But our community engagement has taken a turn where we now communicate with communities and find out exactly what their issues are and try to illustrate those issues on walls in their community. So, I mean, we have murals like all over the city, Shaker, West Side, throughout Cleveland, in communities where people felt as if they didn't have a voice in their own lives or their own destiny. And we have tried to, with their help and actually hands-on, they help paint these murals. We translate what they're trying to say into something relevant yet attractive, so that, you know, people still get the message but aren't offended by it.
Okay. That's a perfect segue into a conversation about the project that you are working on, and I thank you for involving me in the project. It's related to the Cleveland Sculpture Center and some artwork that will appear in public places, but also in an exhibition at the Sculpture Center. Tell us about it.
Well, it's an AR exhibit, AR meaning augmented reality. And what that does is If anybody's familiar with the trend that was a couple years ago, the Pokemon Go kind of scavenger hunt, people would, on their phone, there's an app, and on their phone, they would find these little creatures or symbols or whatever that nobody else could see. So the augmented reality, and that is augmented reality, by the way. But what we're doing with augmented reality is we've selected 6 areas of the city with 12 artists, that 2 artists for each area of the city, and the 6 areas are on the east side. Those 12 artists will create, with community engagement, a piece each, and each of those pieces will be shown in augmented reality form in the 6 areas. So, say, for example, and I know it's hard to visualize this off the top of your head, but just say, for example, you're looking at a waterfall, and the waterfall just looks like a regular waterfall until you hold your phone up to it and hit this app. And what you see that nobody else will see is an image, an artwork, a sculpture, a photograph, something that will be related to that waterfall or the community that waterfall is in, or something that will make that waterfall even more exciting. So that is an augmented reality moment. So what we're doing, myself and the Sculpture Center have decided to do, with the help of an artist from Los Angeles, Nancy Calhoun Baker, we have decided to actually give a scavenger hunt type feel to otherwise disrepresented, neglected areas of the east side of Cleveland, so that people that don't normally come to the east side will come to the east side. And my theory has always been, if you build it, they will come. So I'm thinking, and the premise of this whole thing is that if we can bring enough attention to different areas in the east side, then they can no longer be ignored. Then they will have to flourish. They will have to get attention, financial attention, public attention. The things that, say, East Cleveland, for example, they can get away with destroying an entire community because nobody notices it. Nobody of any substance. So I'm talking about the people in City Hall. I'm talking about the money makers. I'm talking about the funders. Those people don't come to our neighborhood until you give them something to come for. And that's what we're trying to do.
So it sounds like you're talking about community engagement on a few different levels. Community engagement in the form of people coming to see something that is an attraction, something that is art related, and something that is a reflection of them. But I think you're also talking about community engagement in the process. How will the community be engaged in the process of facilitating this particular project?
Right. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The community will be engaged in the process by engaging with the artist. Each artist will be talking to the community in one way or another to get the community's input in their project. The community will be either, and this depends on the artist and it depends on their medium, because it's going to be a variety of mediums that each artist will do. But the artist will have a time to talk with the community in different meetings and different medium and so forth, to engage the community in their thoughts, in their desires, in their, what do you want strangers to see of you when they come into your community. I mean, different questions, different things that will hopefully inspire the artist to do something that gives the community a voice in that piece. And that's the community engagement with the artist. And then this actually won't happen until the spring of next year. So it's a long process, but hopefully when the people come in to look at these pieces or find these pieces or whatever, they're not just looking at that particular place. They're also going to be able to talk to the artist and find out, or talk to community members or whatever, to actually find out, well, what does this mean? Why is this here? What is the significance of this location? What is the history of this location? I mean, there are so many gems in our community that people don't know about or just don't pay attention to anymore. And it's important that those things are brought to the attention of, people who are curious about it. And hopefully we'll get enough write-up about it that people will understand what this particular, and that's another thing that the Sculpture Center is going to do. The Sculpture Center is going to write up a catalog of each of these locations. So there's 6 sites with 12 different locations. So they're going to write up a catalog of each of these locations to say, this used to be, or this is the historical significance of this place. This is why it's called this. I mean, Ridall, for example, has a history, has a value that a lot of people don't even know Ridall is there. So, I mean, there's so many different things that, in this city that people don't know about. And this city is vastly, especially at East Side, has so much history as far as the Underground Railroad, as far as, Mocha, the site of Mocha used to be a jazz club that had so much history that, it just mowed down when big business comes through, or one of the hospitals need that place, or, whatever. And we need to be able to tell those stories.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you a few more opportunities to tell a few more stories, but we're winding down segment number 2, and we're going to have to take a break. But I want to get back to more on the Sculpture Center and more on some of the folks who are involved in this project. So we're going to continue our conversation about that when we return. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. This is Vince Robinson, and I'm talking to Robin Robinson of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus. We'll be right back after this.
What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others. Armor up, armor up. Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water. Armor up, armor up. Give others space, 6 feet just in case. Armor up, armor up. Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion. Armor up, armor up. Vitamin C, D3, and more. Armor up, armor up. Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store. Armor up, armor up. Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs. Armor up, armor up. Let go of stress. Make sure you rest. Armor up, armor up. Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19. Armor up, armor up.
This is Aja Jones,
Tracy Clark, Kiko, Yolanda Armstrong,
Brian Webster.
This is TC Lewis, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
Before we took our break, we were talking about a project that is being facilitated by Robin Robinson of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus and the Cleveland Sculpture Center. But we didn't reveal the name of this project. Tell us what we're calling this.
It's called Crossroads. And the reason that it's called Crossroads is because we were the director of the Sculpture Center, Grace Chin and myself, were trying to figure out what to call this project. First, it was called Battlegrounds, and her board didn't like that. Then it was going to be called Intersections, where, we kind of liked the idea of the juxtaposition of the reality and augmented reality. But then we decided on Crossroads, and Crossroads just kind of made us think of something that's in motion as opposed to intersection or, anything that's stagnant. This, we hope, is something that can be replicated maybe next, the year after or whatever, or by somebody else. I mean, it's an exciting, it's invigorating, and it's inclusive.
Robin, you just gave me an idea just based on what you said, and I'll share it with you offline. But something that you
That's
just
the
said,
artist in you,
it sparked it, and I'm probably going to go out and take this photograph after I finish this conversation. But I want to, since you brought it up, I want to talk about what Grace Chin is doing at the Sculpture Center. I recall the meeting that we had the other day, and she spoke of a certain intentionality and in terms of expanding the scope of the Sculpture Center and its relationship to art and artists in the Cleveland area. Could you talk about the importance of that willingness to make that expansion?
Grace is new to the Sculpture Center, relatively new, but she comes in with the willingness to be not only inclusive, but fresh. She wants to bring the Sculpture Center into the neighborhoods, into the areas. A lot of people don't even know the Sculpture Center exists, except for artists or people in the arts. But the Sculpture Center is, a resource, not only for artists, but for the community. So, she has a vision for the Sculpture Center that this project is just, the tip of the iceberg.
All right. And could you talk about some of the other artists that will be involved in this?
Sure. Okay. Like I said, there are 12 artists and different medium and different types of work. There's Gwen Garth. Okay. She's well known in the area. And all of the 12 artists are African-American artists, and they're all local with the exception of one, Shani Richards, who is in Akron, but she is a metalsmith. But she's willing to come back and forth for all of the things that we need her to do. So Akron's not really that far. It's kind of local. So it's Gwen Garth, Gary Williams, Ed Parker, Donald Black Jr., photography also, Gina Washington, Lawrence Baker, Hilton Murray, Amanda King, yourself, Vince Robinson, Santana Watson, and Charmaine Spencer.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I'm definitely honored to be included in this mix of fine artists, and I'm looking forward to participating in this project. I want to switch gears and come back to something that we were talking about earlier, since we're talking about artists. Of course, last year you were aware of publication that came out that showed a lot of different artists in the Cleveland area, Lawrence Baker being one of them, and some of the others. And when you look at the art that has been created by folks who live in this community, you realize that this art is art that could appear in any museum in any country. I mean, in any city in this country right now. And we talked about the fact that there is a lack of space in the museum that's here for our work. But I also know that, and I know you and I have been involved in efforts to organize artists in the city of Cleveland and the greater Cleveland community. It's an extreme challenge. Could you talk about, what we're facing right now in terms of bringing artists together so that we can network and do the things that are necessary to move the perception of art and the acceptance of art to the next level?
Well, as you mentioned, we have been in many meetings with different artists to try to bring them into one type of group to be able to collaborate. And one of the main problems that I see as far as artists unifying, African-American artists unifying in this city, is the funding, because we're always pitted against each other. We're always battling for the same small amount of funding. So there's a small amount of distrust in that promotes. Because it's, well, if I join with you, then I won't be able to do what I need to do, or, this might be cut short, or, it's the funding stream that is the problem. Not only is it that we don't get the visual attention or the public attention that, say, 78th Street Gallery or people on the West Side get, but we have to fight each other for the little bit that we do get, which makes it difficult to organize when there's a underlying climate of sparity. It's sparse. It's like, it's a poverty mentality. I have to hold on to this because, I don't know if I'm going to get it again, or I don't know if it's going to be enough. So I have to hold on to this type of thing. And, that is a major problem. We have funders in this city. We have vast amounts of money for the arts, but a lot of it goes to people who don't need it. A lot of it goes to organizations who don't need it, who are self-sufficient without it. And it's like, well, why are you giving all this money to, say the art museum when the art museum doesn't need it? I know they have programs that they use it for, but do they really need it? Or do they need as much? Or do they need it every year? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and
they might argue that they do need it.
Well, of course they're going to argue.
And they can justify that argument.
Of course they can,
right.
But they can also justify sharing that, spreading that. If they're, say, for example, if they say, well, we need $20,000 to bring in this show from outside of Cleveland. Well, no, you don't, because you have people here that you can pay, $5,000 each or whatever to have their show here. Not only will it enhance your show, but it will also enhance the lives of those artists that you're helping. So, it's a matter of, trying to figure out, okay, so my priority is to, as far as they're concerned, if their priority is to, have this show that's going to bring in all these people from outside and everything, then the same type of energy can be put into a show with people from inside.
Okay.
So, it's like, okay, it's the same thing with Front. You know, Front International. International was not last year, maybe the year before.
Last
but
year.
I lose track of time with the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I mean, they were so intent on bringing people in from other parts of the country, and that was their funding, that the people here got scraps.
Right.
Lawrence Baker was one of their artists in their, you know, that was on their
short list.
Yeah, exactly, on the short list. But his show, he's a sculptor, or he did a sculpture piece, and his piece was put on a side street. You couldn't even find it. You had to go hunt for his piece, and it was in the back of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not showcasing your natural talent, your in-house talent. That's, you know, that's like, oh, we have to have somebody, so let's just have him. And then we don't have to really show it off. Let's just stick it somewhere.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I'm sorry, that's insulting.
Right.
And in many cases, that's what happens to us as, you know, local African-American artists.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I also wanted to point out the fact that we have a crisis on the horizon when it comes to arts funding.
Mm-hmm.
There years ago, yeah. I think it was probably 10, 11, 12 years ago. My math is a little fuzzy on it, but there was an initiative that was passed that created funding for arts in Cuyahoga County based on the collection of taxes on cigarettes. And that the pot of money that was created by that was divided between nonprofit organizations and artists. And there are major organizations that received the majority of the funding. Organizations like the Cleveland Museum of Art, Cleveland Orchestra, and a few others that received the lion's share of it. And then they had a small portion that they reserved for individual artists. Last year and this year, they had approximately $400,000 for individual artists. But I think that that's probably going to disappear when this funding comes to an end. I don't know what it's going to be replaced by or with, or even if it will. I think the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture has been facing this dilemma head on, and I will be interested to find out what's going to happen after this funding runs out. And when I do find out, I will report it to the public. But we're in a very strange place right now in terms of funding. And to your point about the larger organizations getting the lion's share of it, you know, it is an issue, you know, and you juxtapose that against the fact that the city of Cleveland does not provide any direct funding or support to artists in the city of Cleveland. Yes, there are public art programs, and there's a public art department, and our sister Tara Petrus is doing an exemplary job in terms of what she's doing to bring us into the conversations and to facilitate the public art. She's doing a tremendous job. I think we need more Taras. And we need more of a voice, because artists are not sitting at the table when decisions are made, but there are provisions in development, in economic development, community development for art. And, you know, because we're not in those conversations, we don't have an ability to affect policy. We don't have an ability to affect projects in the way that we should, in a very meaningful way. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, very good.
Yes. So anyway, very interesting discussion. I appreciate you providing what you have provided, and we look forward to rolling out this project and the results that will come. What does Sankofa have planned for the near future aside from this?
Well, Sankofa itself, as an organization, we just recently moved into our new facility at 11401 St. Clair Avenue, right on the corner of St. Clair and 114th. And we plan to open it up as a gallery space as a workshop space for, if someone wants to do a paint and sip party, for different activities. We have not only our space, but the space next door if we need a little more room. And, we're trying to maintain our community open arms perspective. So we have a lot of artist engagement for artists planned for this coming end of the year and into next year with different artist development programs.
Okay. And if someone wants to reach out to Sankofa Fine Arts Plus, how would they do that?
Our phone number is area code 216-675-1001. Because we're not here all the time, we're have different things going on. Leave a message if no one answers the phone. The other way is through our website, which is www.sankofafineart, without the S, plus.org.
Okay. All right. Robin Robinson, co-director of Sankofa Fine Arts Plus. Thank you for joining us on Open Door.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. This is Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU. Back after this.
My name is Robert Johnson Jr. This is Corey Jenkins.
And Courtney Jenkins.
This is Artemis Carter.
Hi, this is Anita Isom.
This is Delvis Valentine.
This is Susan Lacotte.
Eric Nolan is in the building.
I am Talitha Kube, and you're listening to 95.9 FM WOVU.
WOVU 95.9 FM. Find us on Facebook. Like our page. Leave us a comment. We are WOVU 95.9, streaming live on WOVU.org.
We're back on Open Door, and now we are talking with Kai Love, who has a very exciting announcement to make. So I'm going to let her make the announcement, and I will suspend with the suspense. What's going on, Kai Love?
Hey, what's happening? You in Cleveland and all your wonderful listeners. I've got a new venture. I'm so excited. So grateful that you allow me to share with your listeners. Guess what, people? We have a new vegan restaurant in Cleveland Heights, the Real Deal Vegan. It's called The Vegan Girl. So come and check us out. We are like a glam, Vegas, fun, exciting, awesome place. We're at 3492 Mayfield Road at Severance Center in the old Regal Theater. Our soft launch is this Wednesday from 4 to 8 p.m. We're going to have entertainment. One of the best saxophonists in the world, not just the state, not just the city, but in the world, Andre Cavor, is going to be blazing us with some of his awesome, saxophone sound. This is going to be an amazing time. There's going to be drink and liquor and all that good stuff you like to do to have a good time. But more importantly, it's going to be some of the best vegan food you've ever had.
Okay. So I have to ask this question. Why vegan? Why now?
Wow, that is an awesome question. And in fact, it's extremely important because right now it's all about our health. It's about building the immune. It's about building our life force energy. And that comes from what we put in our bodies. And vegan is so, it's healthy. It's a great lifestyle. I kid you not. When I have just been completely vegan, I have so much energy. I feel amazing. I think different. I think clearer mentally, and everything about my life is just upgraded. My vibration changes. It's just a much higher frequency. So why now? Because this is the time. What I'm doing right now was birthed for a time such as this. I never even considered opening a restaurant. I eat vegan, and I sometimes still dabble with seafood. So I didn't think I'd ever just do something like this. It came at such an important time in my life. I was thinking about doing it, and then I started with a wonderful organization called the Front Stage Theater, or Front Stage Multiplex in Cleveland Heights, the old Regal Theater, and we're doing awesome things there. Great shows. We have our last show coming up, our outdoor drive-up show with Keith Washington next Saturday on the 26th. So come out and support that. The restaurant will be happening during that time. And it just all kind of came together. So now with this whole COVID reality or COVID circumstance that we're dealing with globally, it's just really important that people eat healthy and that they understand that the only way we're going to get through this is to ascend mind, body, and spirit.
Okay. Black folks, we really ain't inclined to be vegan. And there's some of us who have awakened to the benefits of it. But, we still like our po' boys and our ribs and our chicken and all that other good stuff. What would you say to someone who doesn't really understand what living on a plant-based diet is all about, or someone who maybe has their foot in both worlds?
Well, kind of like I said before, you are what you eat. And when you eat healthy, you feel better. When you eat unhealthy, you create sickness, disease, all manner of illness, bacteria, germs, things that stay in your gut because you're eating these unhealthy things that don't nourish or nurture the body. So when you're eating a meat diet, you have to think about that's, for as far as I'm concerned, I know that it'll give you a meat mentality. And I know it's true because my mom took me off of pork when I was 12. So it was kind of easy for me to kind of make the transitions. But I did the step down. I just stepped off of, she took me off of pork when I was 12. I stopped eating beef when I was about 22. Then I stopped eating chicken. Then so I was already, done with the other half of the meat world. But what I saw when I was doing that is it changed my health. It changed the way that I felt. I know that when I was eating beef, when I stopped eating beef, I honestly, and this is true, and the women need to know this, cycle just went from a 4-day cycle to a 2-day cycle, literally, just from not eating the beef. And so as I saw the different things that were happening to me, the fact that I am not 30 and people still think I am, that has a lot to do with it. It ages you. But I don't look my age. I don't think that, but I know that by the response from people and things like that. So clearly it's definitely helping in terms of the aging process. So there's so much value to it. So when you start seeing the difference, or I'll just give you an example, stop eating meat for a week, or stop eating beef, or let's say just stop eating pork for 30 days, continue to do everything else, and then eat it, after a month and see how you feel. It really isn't so much as that you have to convince anybody. If you try it and you see the difference in what's happening in your body, and also in your consciousness, you'll just change on your own.
Yeah. Well, it really is a mental battle, I would say, because I know a few people who have tried a plant-based diet for a season, and everyone, just about everyone that I've ever had this conversation with will say, oh, yeah, I did it for such and such a period of time, and I felt great. But then they went back to doing what they were doing before. And many times when they went back to doing what they were doing before, then they had to pay the price for that, either in more weight or not as much energy or whatever. But the flip to that is that those other things are just so more abundant than a vegan, restaurant. I was curious, why you decided to do a vegan restaurant now when you have a lot of other restaurants that have had to close because the customer experience has changed so much. It used to be, because I remember, going to a certain restaurant on Shaker Square and it was packed, and the problem was it was so loud in there because we were in there and we're eating and drinking and having a good time. But you're not having that experience now because you've had to diminish the capacity in order to conform with the standards that are given by the state and so forth and so on. So how will you manage and navigate the changes that have taken place in the customer experience for people who come to restaurants?
Well, for one thing, when I decided to do it, it was an intuitive thing. It wasn't something I just said, let me just do a vegan restaurant. It was really something that was an intuitive, more of a spiritual type of thing, like, wow, this is something you need to do. And then it just happened. As a creative director for the Front Stage Live, I was there and I was taking on this responsibility of bringing some great content to this wonderful establishment it's just a jewel right in Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, that people don't even know exists, but we do so many things in that space. And so as I was there and I'm going, wait a minute, I can do my restaurant. Well, 9 months prior to that, I kept saying I wanted to open a vegan restaurant, and then I was blessed and gifted to come into a space where there was a kitchen and everything that I needed in order to do it. So it happened in such a divine order, divinely ordered type of way that I knew that it was something for me to do. Secondly, and most importantly, again, because of the health issues that we're facing, I think people want to experience something more, something better, something higher, and if nothing else, something different. So while we're going through a time where we're forced to look at our health and we're forced to look at, how we're living and being, sanitizing and being cleaner, that goes right with that type of food, because vegan is all about, a healthier lifestyle. It's about building from the inside out, and about eating less animal protein and things with animal in it, so that your body can rejuvenate itself and get back to total health and healing. So we just are a carry-out at this time. We're open from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to start off. So we honor social distancing for those who are really, really afraid during this season. They wear the masks, and we do all of that. And being a carry-out, though we do have tables where you can sit if you like, but functioning as a carry-out, it allows people to be able to come in and get their stuff and just go. And, so that's mainly our focus. My focus is not to be, this sit down, at least not at this time, but to just really give people a good food, good service, a wonderful, fun experience. If you see my logo, it looks like where I just lived, which is Las Vegas. And so it was a really wonderful spin on that. And everything about the restaurant is kind of about showgirl fun, that kind of thing. So we're just going to build it up slowly. The soft launch is this Wednesday on September 23rd, which happens to be my grandmother's birthday. And it was a way of honoring her, because I believe in ancestral acknowledgement and to keep them in the forefront of our lives, not the background, but in the forefront of our memory and of our daily experience, so that we feel their protection and direction and just a presence. It's an amazing life. And I also have to give credit for that, because every great thing that's happened in my life since I've returned home in the last 10 months has been that, and just the acknowledging of my ancestors and knowing that they're present with me, and they give me the strength to do what I do and to feel protected in this crazy world that we're in right now.
Okay.
So hopefully that answered your question. I tried to,
yes.
But it's just a time to think more healthy, and I think people automatically are. It's a spiritual ascension time, so it kind of eating healthy and providing people with healthier choices. And on top of it, the food is really good. So, it's a difference if you make it with soul and you make it with, good, spices and, and you make people, feel good and have fun while they're doing it. It's just going to be a good time all around.
Okay. Well, I just want to put this out there, because a lot of times when you tell somebody that you're vegan and they think about what they eat and what you might be eating, they kind of default to tofu, which is very bland, which has no taste and depends on what you season it with. I just want folks out there to know that vegan food is good food. And sometimes you could be eating something vegan and not even know about it because you don't think about it. So you just got to kind of adjust the lenses or the filters when it comes to this whole idea of food. And I'm sure that you will be surprised at how good this food will be. I don't know what your menu is going to look like, but I do know.
Well, let me tell you.
Okay, we got about.
Well, let me tell you.
We got 1 minute.
Okay, so the restaurant is called Vegan Girl. It's at 3492 Mayfield Road in Cleveland Heights at the Old Regal Theater. And the food is, our slogan is America's favorite foods gone vegan. So that's what makes our restaurant really dope, because we're like taking corned beef and tacos, fish and tacos, and the chicken Philly and the beef Philly, lasagna, chicken teriyaki, enchiladas, perch and fries. Did I say corned beef?
Yeah, you said that. Yeah, and stop.
Chili dogs and fries. You know that fun stuff we used to eat. Yes. Good fun stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be really good.
All the stuff that you love that could take years off your life, but a vegan version that will extend your life. How about that?
Yes, and it's tasty. Okay. You know, if I'm doing it, it's got to taste good. Okay. Thank you so much, Vince.
All right. So Vegan Girl, 3492 Mayfield Road, and the Old Regal Cinemas now. It's the Front Stage Multiplex. Check her out. Go ahead.
Yes, and come out and see Keith Washington on the 26th at the Multiplex, too. That's going to be going on. We've got Sunday brunch, gospel brunches coming up every Sunday starting in October. We've got Thursday night poetry, stage 7 poetry. It's called Poetic Arts. Come out, do some of your poems, get in the slam. We're doing big things. I think we're going to have the Line Dance King on Wednesdays. Rob Johnson, we haven't confirmed that yet, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be happening every Wednesday starting the first Wednesday of October. Okay. We got mad stuff going on.
All right. Kai Love, right here on Open Door. Thanks for joining us and much success to you. Thank you for listening to Open Door. We appreciate you. We love you, and we look forward to you coming back once again. Know yourself. Love yourself. Be yourself. Make it a great day. Peace.